to you all from ALLATRA TV Africa live stream. Today, in our live conversation, we have a group of young and promising Africans from Nigeria and Uganda. Trust me, these young people are not just students, they are active members of their societies, as you are going to see. We have from Uganda, Grace Waiswa and Nsaawa. He's a law student of the University of Makerere. Grace, I learned you contested for the president of the law students of your faculty. Is it you contested or you are contesting?
Yes, I am contesting as president of the society.
Oh, all right, we wish you well. And then also from Uganda, we have Bridget Mangeni. Bridget Mangeni is a social science student, but this lady is a fearless public speaker. Grace, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I mean Bridget, you are welcome. All right, Bridget doesn't seem to hear me, but she is Bridget Mangeni from Uganda. We have from Nigeria, a gentleman, Raymond Chuma-Onwuoku. He is a political science student, but I tell you, he's also a writer and a public speaker. Chuma, you are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Tell us, which part of Nigeria are you speaking from today?
I'm speaking from Obudu, Cross River State.
Oh, that's a beautiful place. He's speaking from Obudu. You are welcome. We are glad to have you.
Thank you.
Our fourth guest, who is last but not the least, is Aina Ademola Adeniran. Aina is an accounting student, and he is also a very, very vibrant activist. Aina, it's good to have you with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on today's show.
It's all right. You are all welcome, gentlemen and ladies. Today's conversation we'll be hosting with Valine from Uganda. Hi, Valine.
Hi, Kanu. Hello, Bridget, Aina, Grace, and Raymond. It's a great pleasure to see you all today. On the platform of International Public Movement, ALLATRA has launched a unique project, the Creative Society. People from more than 180 countries conduct social surveys around the world to find out how people envision the creative society. A society of the future where they, their family, their friends would feel happy and secure. As we continue to test the theory of 6 degrees of connection, we find out that it works just fine. For example, Arthur, who was a previous speaker on our stream, invited Raymond and 2 other guests. Raymond invited Aina, the 4th guest for today's broadcast. It's amazing that so many people are joining the Creative Society project and getting active.
Yes, Valine, so many people are joining the creative projects, and it's really, really very encouraging. Our topic for today's live conversation is creative leadership of the future society. Creative leadership of the future society. Well, our viewers, let's just remind you, you can leave your comments and your answers in the chat. And then you can also send us your questions, your interesting questions at the end of this program or before the end of this program, we will answer them. It's all right, let's get the ball rolling. I'm going to start with you, Aina. I was just wondering, one of the reasons for the evolution of state is that we should create an environment that would maintain and encourage everyone to have the opportunity to be his best. That is just the ideal. I want to ask you, are we really living this ideal?
Hello, please come again.
Right, I said that one of the reasons for the formation of state is that an environment, enabling environment should be created for everyone to have opportunity to develop to his full potentials. So I'm asking you, do you think we are really living this ideal as at the moment?
I will say currently, Africa, the Africa political geography has not fully integrated this actual normal philosophy of a governmental machinery, right? So I feel that the kind of life we're living in Africa now is an aberration from the normal. So I believe that the basic function of a government and the basic tool and the basic thing a government should do, provision of life and protection of life and security, and also provision of basic amenities as water and all of that, have not fully been achieved in the African continent. So I feel that by more and more as people get conscious and people begin to demand from the government what truly theirs, I believe there is seriously going to be a change in Africa.
Aina, a very interesting one. Hold on, sorry, Balin. I want to just follow up from what he has said. Then I want to ask you, so what do you envision as a creative society? I mean, a society where, like you are mentioning, those ideas could be achieved. People could be happy and comfortable and feel secure. So let's hear your vision of this creative society. Hello, Aina, should I repeat it? Oh, it's like he's having some connectivity problem. So Valin, we can ask your question. When he comes back, we will get back to him.
Okay. Grace, I have a question for you. Thomas Hobbes had described primitive society as one where life is short and brutish. How much has changed since?
Hello.
Yes, Aina. I think we have lost Aina again. Grace, as I was saying, Thomas Hobbes had described primitive society as one where life is short and brutish. How much, in your opinion, has changed since Hobbes?
First of all, a good afternoon to everyone who is watching us. I think that generally, human evolution has so much widened to the extent that there is not so much more that is being seen, just like the way Thomas Hobbes described it. The society might be primitive, that a primitive society might be as brutish, might be where life is short, but to look at it in a way that in such a society where we are living presently, there is just so much more that could quite be similar, yet I think that it's a different society. Right now, you may not refer to this society as primitive. It's rather a different word that I would use. I would say this society is quite it's undergoing a different evolution from this century into another century. That's why you see that even the same qualities of the society that Hobbes described as primitive are the same things that we see. For example, right now we are in the middle of a global pandemic. For example, right now you cannot move on the streets, and you're sure of your security, that a police officer can just arrest someone on the streets in a developed country like America and press a knee against their neck and suffocate them to death. Yes, this is a society that we are looking at and saying it's a society where life is short. But is it brutish? Is a question that you have. And you know, the brutality in society is somehow something that people imbibe in them. It's embedded in them. It begins from you yourself. Ask yourself, am I kind? Am I having the level of, of humility that is able to understand that human life matters? Because if at all you pass by someone who is suffering on the streets and they're asking for a single coin to have lunch and you can't give it to them, then trust me, you're just one of those brutish people on the streets. Listen, this is what we are talking about. We're saying that we might still be in a primitive society, just like Hobbes described. We might be still experiencing the things that Hobbes described, but we are not in that century. I think that this is a society, currently we have a society where people are enlightened, people have gone to school. I think in Uganda, most of the population in Uganda are young people. About 15 million people, young people, are in school, and they have been able to get education. However, they are not implementing what they are getting from this education. So the word primitive, in one word or the other, by Hobbes, does not describe our society. But then there is a word that you might find for yourself that might describe our society, because the same things that Hobbes uses to describe, the description that he gives vividly to describe a primitive society where life is short and brutish, are the same things that are happening in our societies. But I would say primitive is a word that cannot describe the society, yet we could find a word, for example, redundant, or if it's not redundant, then it would be adamant, an adamant society where people are enlightened, but they're not willing to take out their knowledge, their understanding, their technical skills and adaptiveness to society to help and benefit humanity and humanity at all. So that is what I have as an answer for your question.
Okay, thank you so much, Grace. As a law student, what is your idea of law in a creative society?
Well, my idea
Sorry, dear. It looks like we are losing
so
Grace.
much more. And I think that is our foundation number 7. Really means that, but it means that the majority of the people, it goes to the number, it's quantitative. How many people? It's not about, sometimes, yes, we may look out for the quality, but when the quality is benefiting just 1, 2, 3 people. But justice and equality are key ideas that I think are important in a creative society, and that we must always pursue them if at all law is to be upheld. So, in the first place, do we have a majority of people, a vast majority of people in societies having a sense of trust for the justice systems and how they work? Do they know how justice systems work? When justice is brought into people, is it discriminative? Is it segregative? Does it segregate people on lines of who has the money and who doesn't have, on gender? There we are not having a creative society, and the sense of law is not existent. But in circumstances whereby we are having an equal society where everyone is able to access justice, they know about their justice, they know about the justice needs, and they can be able to access these needs, then that is where the idea of law is realized in a
Seems we have lost Grace again. Bridget, you are a student of social science and a public speaker. Let's talk about women in the creative society. What is the position of women in present times? Hello, Bridget. Bridget?
Yes, please.
I'll repeat the question. You are a student of social science and a public speaker. Yeah. Let's talk about women in the creative society. What is the position of women in the present times?
At the moment, women in the present times we're grouped into a category of women that still believe that men are supposed to fend for us. And there is a category of the empowered women, women that believe they can go out and fend and at the same time gain assistance from our male counterparts. So in my view, it would be best to have women that are empowered, but at the same time seek help from the male counterparts, because we know that we did not come into this earth alone. We came as a pair, male and female, and so we are supposed to live in harmony to ensure that the society we are heading for, the creative society, is one filled with equality and equity. As a public speaker, I believe we have gained a certain standard of empowerment. We are more liberated. We know our rights. Unlike the previous times, whereby when a man said something, it was final. Now, these days, we have platforms where a woman can give her opinion and a man can share his own opinion, and together they can come to an agreement on what decision to take.
Okay, thank you so much, Bridget. What should be the role of women in a creative society? In that ideal society?
In our ideal society, I believe women should stand up for honesty. Now, we all know honesty is a virtue that not many uphold, but as women, as we all know, women are, the girl child is the future generation. So I believe by us impacting onto the young ones at an early age, the honesty values, that makes them more open. It brings about transparency, as we can see in the fourth foundation of our creative society: transparency and openness of information. So as women, I believe it is up to us. It is up to us to stand up and become honest, you know. And by honesty, I don't mean that there'll be times when we shall always tell the truth. But we all know that there will come time that the times we have said the truth are the times when we have felt the best of ourselves, because then we know we have upheld integrity. So other than honesty, I believe competence is what we look forward in the women, because we come from a society where we knew that certain spheres of life were supposed to be left strictly up to the men. However, now in this creative society, we have examples of maternal families, where a family is headed by a woman. So as an empowered woman in this creative society, we're looking at competence, we're looking at honesty, we are looking at all the virtues that come with it, faithfulness and the like.
Wow, quite an interesting answer from Bridget. Raymond, sorry, when I was making the introduction, I said you studied political science. That was a slip of tongue. Raymond, could you please tell us, we know you as a writer and also as a public speaker, but I didn't get that, what you studied or what you're studying.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually study materials engineering in the University of Nigeria in Nsukka.
Oh, that's beautiful. You're welcome. Sorry for that slip. Well, I'm going to pick you up as a writer and as a public speaker. I want you to tell us your view about creative society. What would you say? Would you say that we're already living in that creative society, looking at the way things are going presently?
Okay, thank you very much. Honestly, we are not in the creative society. I know that compared to the past, we have actually made significant progress in our quest to get the creative society that we desire and we deserve. But I believe that we are a country mile away from getting the creative society we want, and we have to do more.
Doing more reminds me, if we're to do more, then there must be things hindering us from doing what we ought to do. So what do you think are really hindering us from living that creative ideals of the creative society?
Okay, thank you. I believe that the most essential part of a creative society is freedom, as highlighted by the second foundation of a creative society on the ALLATRA platform. But freedom goes beyond the rights to life, and I believe that freedom of expression is our most important freedom, and it is being suppressed in the society today by parenting institutions, religious institutions, societal institutions, and I think that is a major hindrance to whatever growth or progress we can make towards the creative society that we deserve. Unless the freedom of expression is granted to everyone, young and old alike, in equal measure, then we are still a far way ahead. I would want to give an instance. I imagine that we have two separate bottles here, identical bottles, of course, but the two different bottles have different components, but we can't know because the bottles are identical. What happens in the society today is that we try to treat the two bottles as the same, meanwhile their components are different. We treat everyone because they have a human shell, the bottle. We try to treat them as the same and we expect the same things from them. We do not allow them to express what is unique about them or what is special about them. And in the end, we have a society that is not just rigid, but as Grace Riley mentioned, adamant in terms of growing.
Sorry, Valin, let me take that from you. I want to go back to Aina. I know where we were talking with you, the network, the connectivity wasn't good. But from the little we gathered from what you are saying, it's like you are saying the state is not really living up to the ideals for which it is set up. And one would want to ask you, what has leadership got to do with this evolution of a creative society? Aina, did you hear me?
Leaders of the African continent or the politically developing countries. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Aina. Go ahead.
I want to say that the political leaders of the African continent are really not doing enough. We need to do more. Our political leaders need to do more. There should be incentives. There should be serenity, and there should be a very conducive environment for people, for the African masses, to hear their views, to share their opinions on how a creative society should emerge. But that aside, I want to say that the African people, also the buck is on them as well, because I understand that the only vehicle for a change, in the African continent or in anywhere, it's the universal truth that the only vehicle for change are people who have lost their personality, right? So I believe that we as Africans, we as the third world countries, we as developing countries, we as the oppressed people, we need to change our mentality about life. We need to change how we think, and we need to change how we reason. We need to change our perception about a lot of things. If this can be done, I believe that the African empire is mine. So I believe that if one can liberate himself, if one can liberate if psychological or a mental emancipation happens, I believe as Africans we should do a lot on ourselves, on our psychological status quo, have to take a new way of thinking so that the creative society can emerge. Thank you.
All right. Listening to you, I just got this. My memory went back those years in school. Mika Cabral, Kwame Nkrumah, so many of them, Kalmaz and all that. In Africa, we had really struggled to be independent, to be liberated. But like you're saying, it takes the conscious to really get the unconscious to feel these things. So let me ask you, Africa has been independent for over, let me say in the minimum over 50 years now. Do you think that it is possible to have a self-governing society?
A self-governing society. What do you mean by self-governing society?
Yes, Africa, we have talked so much about liberation. Africa is an independent state. And yet from what you are discussing, it seems that we are not yet at that Eldorado where life is as we want it to be. So I am just asking, would you say having a self-governing society where people will operate a system of government that will involve all and then take decisions that will improve the lifestyle of others, everybody in it, is possible in Africa?
On what you just said, right? So, are you listening to me?
I am.
Hello?
We are listening to you. We are listening to you. The world is listening to you, I know.
Okay, all right, thank you. I believe that the only way that we can create a change in Africa is by electing leaders who have the African community, the African masses at heart. So as a political activist, and I advocate for a leader who is effective, a leader who has the love of the people at heart. So I believe that a leader who is anti-imperialistic and a leader who will not succumb, a leader who will not be a stooge or a puppet to the capitalist state is the leader that we want. A leader who has socialism, anti-imperialism, and in his manifesto. That's the pay obeisance to the Western cosmopolitan leaders like that. Leaders who will make decisions by themselves. Leaders who will not be a huge leaders that are independent, that are Kwame Nkrumah, you have people like Thomas Sankara, you have people like Obafemi Awolowo, and the host of all the motorized freedom fighters. So I believe that we need to rejuvenate this kind of spirit of nationalism, right? So we have to resuscitate this and the great spirit of Africanism. If we can do this, I see the African empire emerging.
Wow, Aina, that's really interesting. Thank you. Bridget, let's hear it from you. Who is a leader? Bridget, who is a leader?
In my opinion, a leader is competent. Actually, a leader possesses a variety of virtues, and that is and various virtues such as honesty intertwined with integrity, competence. A leader is one with the ability to put others before herself or himself, hence selfless. Yes, I think I will define a leader with those virtues.
Okay, thank you. In your opinion, what can we improve on today's leadership to live the happy, secure, comfortable life of the creative society?
I'll base my opinion on my country, Uganda. So to have a secure Uganda, we need to stop the habit of leaders feeling entitled. Most of the leaders in our society are entitled. We have instances of leaders come up and because they fought in a particular war, they will use that to ruin, to lead for countless years. Yes, yet we all know that there are constitutions that govern countries. So we need to have leaders that are abiding by these set constitutions. Leaders that won't let their entitlement lead them into changing the constitution to suit their selfish desires. Leaders that are filled with honesty, or like a leader that is honest enough to let the people know when they have made a mistake, because we are all human. I mean, in humanities, we are taught that we are all human. So at one point in life, we are liable to create mistakes. So as a leader, I would expect that if you have made a mistake, it might not be the easiest thing to always do, but if the lives of many people are at stake, I would expect a leader to come up and rectify that mistake publicly. After all, at the end of the day, they say you cannot humiliate a person in public and send an apology in private. If the mistake has been made worldwide, it should. As a leader, you should take it upon you to come up and rectify the mistake in public. Other than being honest and abiding by the constitution in their set countries, I believe, because this brings us back to the creative society, and the type of leader that I would want in a creative society is a democratic leader, not a dictator. And in good governance, because I also major in public administration. So good governance, we are taught about rights, about the forms of good governance, such as holding fair and free elections, unbiased elections where we do not find that leaders take it upon themselves to bribe citizens just to get their vote, but rather to work for it, so that at the end of the day, I know that I voted this leader into place fully aware of their capabilities. Yeah, I think that is.
Wow. Beautiful, Grace. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Sorry, I keep calling you Grace. Bridget. Sorry about that mistake. Grace.
Yes,
just a sideline, just a happy one. In my country, most ladies have that name, Grace, but I'm happy to hear that in Uganda it's a unisex name. So forgive me if I'm calling Bridget by your name most times when I'm looking at her. That's by the way. Grace, let us say you suddenly became the president of Uganda, of your country. What are the first things that you would love to do?
I think the word suddenly couldn't have been used because maybe it would happen on strategic terms. But specifically, Uganda is a country that is undergoing a transition. A transition from a low-income state to a middle-income state. So if I become president of the Republic of Uganda, one of the things that I would focus on is the economy of the country, and to ensure that there is quite an economic balance on lines that are not divisionist in a way, because most of them, there is a very big gap in Uganda between the poor and the rich. The people who have money in Uganda have money in plenty. Those who do not have the money do not have the money and are poor, like totally poor. In homes, if you have been in places where people are rich, you have 3 meals a day, they can secure those with no difficulty. Whereas in poor homes and poor societies, people cannot even get more than 1 or 2 meals a day. So that is one of the things that I would be working around to ensure that there is economic balance in the country, so that we lessen the gap between the rich and the poor. But that notwithstanding, one of the other things that I would be dealing with is the issue of freedom. There's someone who said that there is freedom in Uganda, and I think this has happened even in America, in different countries where, and even in other countries where freedom of speech and expression is limited, that there is freedom to speak, but there is no freedom after speaking. Here in Uganda, there is no peaceful demonstration. You cannot, especially if it is against government or if it's against government interests, you can never put up in a demonstration and that demonstration is taken as a peaceful demonstration, even at the highest level of peace or peacefulness that you can achieve. You may not get it. Why? Because you say you have a peaceful demonstration, you have written to the police about it, you have taken all the prerequisites measures that are needed for you to carry out that demonstration, but still there shall be tear gas after you, there shall be batons hurled on you, there shall be police all over the place. I study at Makerere University. It's a student community. You may not expect students to have guns and to have lethal weapons with them, but on a simple fees structure strike, you'll find over 500 soldiers at the campus roaming around the place. That is something that I think that would be looking forward to changing, ensure that people can have freedom of speech and expression, and that speech and expression is not impeded by extreme measures. For example, heavy deployment of the army. For example, use of lethal weapons. For example, live bullets and etc. Now, the third thing that I would change is the sense, the issue of how society reacts to crime on one other part, and how society understands how institutions work. I think that is something that is very important, because very many people, for example, on the side of justice, very many people cannot access courts because they don't know how courts work. And two, on the side of education, whereas we can claim that 15 million Ugandans are in school, the level and quality of this education that they receive is not the same. You realize that there's a difference between first world, what we call first-class schools in the country, and then those that actually at very, very poor state. There are schools where students go under trees to study because there are no classrooms, whereas there are schools where there are extra classrooms and people, there are extra halls where students can always go. And on the other hand, there's the quality of teachers that they receive, the quality of the notes that they get from the teachers is also different. However, all these students will always sit for the same national exam, the Uganda National Examinations Board examinations, and then after that, those students will have to of course, they will not perform as the same as those that are in the first-class schools. And then what will happen is that they will compete for the same jobs get into the employment world. But however, you cannot compete at the same level with someone who has performed very well in a first-class school, whereas you're coming from a poor school and you do not have the grades, because most employers look out for the grades, not the skill actually. So that is something that I would love to deal with, especially the quality of service delivered by institutions. You look at hospitals. Sometimes there is free medication at the government hospitals, but you would rather get to pay money in a private hospital than going to a government hospital, because when you go there, there's going to be delay to attend to you. If there is not delay, then there will be laxity in or even sort of carelessness in handling your health problem. So it is very, very important that in one way or the other, you deal with such an issue. So those are the issues that majorly I would work on to ensure that Uganda becomes a better society.
Wow, that's amazing, Grace. Thank you. I'll go to Raymond now. Raymond, for many people, existence is still just about surviving. In which society, in which kind of society would you be happy and wish for your loved ones and every person on planet Earth? Raymond, we can't hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. The society we envisage, or the society we imagine for ourselves and our loved ones, is a society where our rights as human beings are not being impeded on in any manner. It's a society where the status of political or social leader does not make you attain God's status. You have the same access to equal infrastructure, equal health services as the common people, the members of the society. It's a society where people will not be discriminated upon based on their gender, sexual orientations, their beliefs, their educational qualifications, or the color of their skin. We imagine a society where you are judged based on the content of your character and not by any other, I would say, materialistic factors. So yeah, basically, this is the society I imagine for myself and the other members of the society in the world.
Thank you, Raymond. On ALLATRA Unites website were added 8 foundations of the creative society. Now you can see them on your screens. The foundations are human life, human freedom, human safety, transparency and openness of information for all, the creative ideology, development of personality, justice and equality, and self-governing society. Bridget, can you please choose one of the foundations and comment on it?
I'd love to choose Foundation 7, but Grace earlier on talked about it. Am I still allowed to as well?
Yes, it's okay. Feel free.
Okay. So as a humanitarian student with a passion for law, it brings me to expound more on the justice and equality part, because from what I study, we are taught of social justice. Now, this is justice in terms of distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within a society. So in this creative society, we seek to expound on justice and equality. However, as a humanitarian, I seek to bring in the method of equity. So equality and equity are very much the same. However, there's a big difference. With they both advocate for fairness. However, equality is treating everyone with the same with the same in the same way, regardless of need, whereas equity achieves fairness through treating people differently, dependent on the need. So now we come to a scenario whereby there are girls in rural areas and girls in urban cities. So we all know that most of the girls, not all, however, most of the girls in urban cities can afford sanitary towels. However, most of the girls in rural settings cannot afford sanitary towels. Now, this is where the difference between equality and equity comes about. With equality, there is distribution of sanitary towels to all the girls in a country. However, with equity, we look at who is more in need of this. So that brings us to providing for the girls in the rural setting, because we know that most of the girls in the urban setting can provide for themselves. So as a humanitarian, I believe that such social justice is important in our creative system, in our creative society, and this is backed up by equality and equity.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for that brilliant answer. Raymond, which of the foundations resonates with you?
I would go with the second, the freedom. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, we go with human freedom, because for a creative society to thrive, we have to have our rights outlined and follow to the letter, as I had stated earlier, because in the society we have today, our freedoms are being impeded on without remorse. We talk about our rights to life, most importantly. That is the most important freedom of all, and it's being trampled upon as if nothing is happening. We hear of people dying, and it's just another item of news for the day, and people are not bothered. So the freedom to life, the freedom to good health care services as citizens of a particular country or society is also very important. We also talk about freedom of speech. I heard Grace mentioning freedom of speech and freedom after speech, which is not just obtainable in Uganda. Also here in Nigeria, we see people being persecuted for exercising their constitutional right to freedom of speech. We also see people being persecuted, of course, for not speaking. We see people being impeded, their rights being impeded upon every single time, and then in the end, nothing is done. The government has a God status over the constitution, and it's what the government wants that plays. And when what is in the constitution does not apply to the government, then it is being thrown aside. So I believe that for a creative society to thrive, or for us to have a progressive society, the freedoms of every human being in the society has to be highlighted and equally obeyed. Yeah.
Wow, that was really interesting, Raymond. I really agree with the need for freedom all over the world. Grace, which of the foundations would you like to talk about today?
I think I would talk about foundation number 4 on transparency and openness. And the reason as to why I pick out transparency and openness is that I think that these two ideas are one of at the key and they are pillars of a society that I would love to live in. That is why you can see that in most of the democratic societies that people envisage and want to live in, there must be transparency and openness, both on the part of the government and also on the part of the people themselves. You want to take us down to a human or a home setting, a domestic setting. One of the things that always cause domestic strife is the break in the communication in the communication chain, in the chain of communication between husband and wife, or between people living in the same domestic setting. If someone is having something that they are hiding from the other, then that is where issues of mistrust, fear, and suspicion start. And that is what disrupts society. I think a creative society must be a society that is open to ideas, open to the key element and tenet of transparency. And in one way or the other, I would love to discuss transparency in terms of institutional transparency in a way that people can be deprived of life, of freedom, of safety, of ideas, of personality, of equality and justice, and power, just through people in institutions being corrupt. So that is what I look at as a transparent society, where there isn't corruption, where there isn't where there is not people withholding information from each other. That is why you see that in most of the laws that are established, most of the international laws, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights talks about the right to freedom of access to information. Most constitutions all provide for the right to access information. But in most governments, especially where dictatorships exist, where lack of freedom exists, most of those people are deprived of the access to information. They are deprived of access to how government money is used and how government resources are utilized. Remember, when you stop someone or when you deprive someone of knowing how money is used, you are depriving them of the money itself. If you are depriving someone of knowing how the justice system works, you are depriving them of accessing the justice system. So that is how transparency is very, very important in a free and creative society. There must be a certain bit or a position where people feel like they are included in the decision-making processes of government, in the decision-making processes of institutions, and even even the fact that their ideas are appreciated, their existence is appreciated, so that they can take part in the government, of the society, of the country. That is how it is important to live in a society that is able to open up to people and be able to, because if we as leaders, as young people, we need information to be able to better ourselves, to participate in the development of our country. Active citizenship is only possible if we are able to access information. You don't have what to react to if you do not know what is going on. For example, you cannot look out for people's to fight for people's rights, yet you don't know that people's rights are being violated. But if you know that there is a torture center in your country, then you can be able to open up and fight for people's rights against torture. If you cannot know that people are dying of COVID-19 at a very large scale, if the country is withholding information about people who are dying of COVID-19, if the numbers are being sabotaged and they're talking about a lesser number, yet many people are dying, people cannot take this information as serious as possible if at all you do not open up and tell them what exactly is happening in a country. I have heard of circumstances where countries are burying bodies of people in the night, in the middle of the night. Why? Because they don't want to worry the population. There is no transparency in those countries, and people can easily be exposed to taking this information, this pandemic for granted, because they know and are comfortable that people are not dying at that large scale. Whereas if they knew and found out that people are dying exactly at a large scale, it'd be easier for them and to understand and put up preventive measures and work upon the soaps that are being put in place to prevent the disease. That is just an example of what can happen if a society is not transparent and is not open to the people. If leaders are not open to the people, if institutions are hiding economic information, financial statements, if people cannot access jobs because a particular someone has taken away the slot and given it to their own person or someone who is their relative, and they are not advertising. I was reading the paper just yesterday, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs here was given 460 scholarships to give out to Ugandans. However, only 90 scholarships were given out, and the period of time has gone away, and it has expired. And only 90 people benefited from the scholarship, of which these 90 people can be traced to be at least relatives or people that are known to the members or the people who are government officials in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is the danger in keeping information and not being transparent, not being open to people. You deprive people of the rights of rights that they would have enjoyed at ease. For example, the right to education, the right to access of information, just because you are greedy, you are insecure. Sometimes it's about insecurity, I think, because people hiding information is because you actually don't want people to know, to find out. So that is why if you trace my discussion from the beginning, you realize how important transparency and openness are key tenets in a creative society.
Okay, thank you, Grace, and all our dear guests. Thank you for such an amazing conversation today. And thank you to our dear viewers for your active participation and your comments. But before we call it a day, we would like to ask our guests one final question. Would you like to live in a creative society? I'll start with you, Grace. Would you like to live in a creative society?
Yes, I would love actually to live in a creative society. And the reason is that, first of all, in a creative society, I'm sure that I will live, because there are as many efforts as possible that are exploitable for my human life to be sustained. For example, technology is coming up. There is ability to form up medicine to keep my health okay. There is the technological advancement in society is able to be maintained, and there is much more freedom for people to create as many things as possible to maintain myself as a human being, sustain me in this society, in the creative society, and also to be able to enjoy the rights and freedoms that I am entitled to. Then two, if I am in a creative society, then I'm able to discover. When you are able to discover, you are able to find out things that are not known to you. There is, at the level of globalization that the world is moving to, is that I can be in Uganda and communicate to someone in Nigeria. And that is something that I would love to enjoy. And on the other hand, I also love to develop myself as a person, to enjoy, to be satisfied with the effort that at least I put in every day to make myself a better person. But you can't realize that if you're not in a creative society. You cannot realize the freedom that you have been able to fight for. You can't be able to realize your talent. You can't be able to exploit your talent to benefit society if you're not in a creative society. on the other hand, also justice and equality are things that I would love to enjoy in a creative society, because I believe that there are very many amenities that I am not able to access as a person just because I am Black in some countries. There's some places where you will go and you will not be given a particular position just because you are a Musoga by tribe, for example. There are places where you will not get assigned a particular position because you are a woman or because you are a man. And I think that this is something that is very key. It's very important to my life. I don't want to go to compete for a particular job and I'm being discriminated against, or I'm not being considered because I belong to a particular tribe or a particular religion, or I am of a particular sex, or my sexual ideas or my sexual orientation does not match with what the people at the particular workplace advocating for. So that is the kind of society that I would love to live in and I look forward to.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Can you tell us the phrase, I would like to live in a creative society, in your native language?
Nenda okuba mu kifo nga kikiri nga kiziramu kusosola mu mawanga yeah, that is it.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Raymond, in a few words, would you like to live in a creative society? And if you can also tell us in your native language.
Okay, yeah. Yes, of course. I mean, for every young African, we should be looking forward to a creative society because of all the hard work we put in every day of our lives. Some people end up toiling and remaining in the rat race. And I believe that with a creative society, we would be able to achieve our life expectations in terms of things we want to do that we are being limited by the nature of the society now, places we want to get to, what we want our lives to be like, what we want the lives of our family members to be like. So I believe that it's insane to imagine that any young African would not want to be in that creative society that we deserve and desire. So yes, I want to be in a creative society. And Amiibo, so I would say it this way. Ma choka anyị na ụwa na-aga n'iru. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Bridget, to you, please.
Yes, I would definitely love to live in a creative society, a society where human life is priority, a society where regardless of what race you are or what tribe you hail from, we are all treated the same. And we need to understand that before we handle the bigger issues in life, we should start with the nitty-gritties. So I will specify in Africa where we are, I won't say not necessarily divided, but we are grouped in tribes. So we need to first demolish the tribalistic aspects before we can look at the racism, because it starts with us. If we can manage to first live as one people, as Africa or Uganda, then we can go on to impact the same onto others and, you know, instill in them the value that whether you are white or brown or black, we are all the same. And in correspondence with the development of personalities, the sixth core foundation, the creative society I'd love to live in is one where right from childhood we are groomed to build our talents right from the start go, rather than imposing on us an education system that forces you to do what you do not like, and then later on you have to rebel and all that. It would be best to find a society with understanding parents, guardians, and where there is communication, and we are able to voice out our concerns and be heard and be listened to in order to create this creative society.
Okay, thank you everyone for being part of this conversation today, for sharing your views and your ideas about the Creative Society. Dear viewers, if you or your friends want to participate in our live conversation, please send your emails to info@allatraunites.com. And our dear participants, is there anyone that you would like to invite for our next stream? Please feel free to share as well. To join the creative projects of the ALLATRA International Public Movement, please visit our website, ALLATRAunites.com, where you will see the red button, Join. All you need to do is fill out a very short and easy form. As well, on ALLATRA Unites website, you can explore further information about the 8 foundations of the Creative Society. You can also participate in conversations on ALLATRA Radio, or send your ideas of Creative Society to info@allatraunites.com. Share our broadcasts in several social networks using 2 hashtags, #Creative Society or #ALLATRAUnites. Leave your comments below the video and also join the 6 Handshakes initiative. After all, the faster people find out about the possibility of living in a creative society, the faster we can begin to create it. Thank you very much, and see you soon again on ALLATRA TV Africa.